All right, if I can have your attention, I'd like to welcome you to the first annual Dark Shadows Festival. I want to stress to you, first of all, that we're a fan-oriented convention, and we want to hear from you, the fans, because without you, we couldn't be doing this right now. We want all your opinions. Anything you have to tell us, we're willing to hear it, and we want to hear it. Short note here, first from Robert Colbert. Says, sorry, but I won't be able to make it. I'm living in California now. Hopefully, hopefully in the future I may be able to make one of your conventions. I have a nice letter here from Donna Wandery. Says, I almost certainly will be able to be with you from 4 to 7 on Saturday, October 1st. I'm not sure, though, I can attend the dinner afterwards, but I will keep you informed. Best wishes. I have a real nice note here from Addison Powell. It says, Dear Joseph, sorry to say I won't be able to attend to the Dark Shadows conclave because I'm going to be in California at that time. However, I wish you and the others a very happy reunion and a good ghoulish time for all. You may have noticed that they have me selling frozen fish as a Gloucester fisherman for Gordon. I've been doing a lot of theater as well. And speaking of theater, in 1949 I did a season of summer stock at the Greenbush Garden Playhouse on Peaks Island in Casco Bay. That just happens. He mentioned that because I'm living in South Portland, Maine right now, and it's about 2 miles out of town. It says Rod Steiger was also in the company that summer. So good luck again, Joseph. Nice hearing from you. Best regards, Addison Bud Powell. Okay. Got a very interesting note here. Thank you for your kind invitation, but I will be in Europe during your convention, and it's signed Alexandra Isles. And lastly, I got a wonderful telephone call from Joan Bennett, and she said she would have been delighted to come, and she appreciates all our interest in her, but she's doing a benefit at the Westchester Hospital this weekend. It's a benefit for Rita Hayworth for the disease she has, premature senility, and they're giving a benefit for her. But she said she would love to come, and if timing was not, in conflict, she would be glad to come. So she made it plain to me that if we invite her next year, she's going to make every effort to come.
Okay. At this time, I would like to introduce our guest of honor. He was a Dark Shadows writer. Probably a lot of the episodes you were watching today and will be watching for the rest of the weekend were or can be attributed to this gentleman. He will probably tell you, I'm sure, what he's been doing since, and answer any questions you may have about Dark Shadows, what it was like to write for the program, their ideas, any difficulties, whatever stirs your brain. He seems very amenable to answering questions. So at this time, I would like to very proudly introduce Mr. Ron Sproat.
There was a show after Vicki had been captured by Matthew Morgan. I don't know if you remember this whole thing, but it was the first time ghosts were introduced on the show. And all the ghosts of the widows came to save her. And Matthew had an axe, and he swung the axe through the ghosts and so forth. Anyway, that effect we thought was going to be wonderful. Well, it wasn't. It was awful. But the next day there was a script where Vicki came home and played a scene with Burke Devlin, who was a character on the show then, and Joan Bennett, Elizabeth, told her a ghost story, and we used some ghost footage that Dan had done originally that had never been used. It was Catherine Lee Scott with a stocking over her head or something, shot of her sort of running around the pillars of the old house. And I thought that was a wonderful show. I thought that was my favorite show because at that time, because I thought it combined everything we wanted to combine. And it was supposed to be a nothing show, and it was supposed to be a calm-down show after the big effect. And I didn't expect much when I wrote it. I just hoped it would turn out. It turned out very well, I thought. But Dr. Hoffman was going to be Dr. Julius Hoffman. until, I think, and up to the point where they said, he's coming, I suppose. But at the very last minute, Bob Costello said, why don't we turn this character into a woman? Wouldn't that be more interesting? To have a woman doctor and yet another man walking in. So he said, sure. She became an all-purpose doctor. But it was supposed to be a minor character. Somebody asked me a question last week about how things got changed. And that's a case in point. That was supposed to be a walk-up. Dr. Hoffman was supposed to last maybe 5 performances tops. It was supposed to be just a little character that came in and performed the function. Of course, became one of the major characters.
Was there an ultimate plan to reveal Vicky's identity?
Yes. Yes.
Who was she?
She was going to be Elizabeth Starr.
By who right?
All those stories were right. I can guess too.
Well, as it turned out, she functioned like a daughter anyway, so it didn't, as far as I can see. But that kind of thing absolutely got lost.
Not true.
John?
Julia!
Eric, what's wrong?
Julia, my heart! My heart, Julia!
Oh, no.
My heart, Julia! Digitalis! I need the digitalis
Well, where is
in
it,
my
Eric?
desk.
In the
Downstairs.
desk? I'll go get it.
Hurry, Julia! She must know. She must know. Julia, when you do the experiment again, if both Barnabas and my creation live. Good evening and welcome to Newark, New Jersey and to the 2nd Annual East Coast Dark Shadows Festival. We're glad you're here. Hi, my name is Jeff Thompson from Nashville.
And I'm Laura Collins Brodian from San Francisco. And it's just chock full of all kinds of interesting information telling you about who is responsible for all the fine things that are happening. There'll be, as we mentioned, the costume contest, and then there's our interpretation of the Blue Whale, where there'll be some local talent giving you fine renditions of their offerings. And, of course, the schedule, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Right. Yes, that Back at the Blue Whale performance tomorrow evening will be a high point because it'll be you, the fans, who will be up here singing or playing instruments or doing dramatic readings, and that'll be something very exciting to see. And, of course, as Marcy was telling you, the costume contest is always one of the highlights of the convention because we get to be someone other than ourselves.
And we know about that, don't we?
To use the characters, but we want individual stories, and every book will be its own story. So I studied the television show, and I watched the characters, and I developed my own feelings about them. I felt that the character that Jonathan Frid portrayed, Barnabas, to me was a romantic character, as well as being several other phases to him. And I'm very proud that Jonathan Frid, the star, was a fellow Canadian. And I'm going to tonight give you the outline of the last book of Dark Shadows, which wasn't written because the series was discontinued, and we decided that we would not do any more books with the ending of the series. But we still had all things in line, and there's a possibility another publisher in New York is now interested, and the only thing that's holding up some more Dark Shadows books is the Ogre ABC, who are very tough to deal with. Now, this one was to be called Barnabas Crenton and the Mad Ghost. And it begins, this is the way I would work. We worked out the outlines when we were doing the books. The mocking laughter of a man dead for 2 centuries was the signal for a wave of terror in Collinsport.
Yes.
How did you come to name the characters Barnabas, Josette, and Angelique?
I named Barnabas. At the time we were introducing Barnabas, Dan Curtis had to go to England for some reason. And we weren't really sure about the vampire. We really weren't. I realized I didn't underline that kind of before. I mean, he could have passed off in 3 weeks. He could have been let out of the box with a total failure, put him back in the box and forget it. So we just didn't know. So there wasn't a lot of attention being played to Barnabas. He got the same attention, a little more, because he was different. That you might give the introduction of a new character. And we did build it up, and my idea about pulling the thing and having it open, and about the lid coming up, and how to introduce it, and I mean, most of that I choreographed and in the design of the set and that sort of thing, because I had to see it to know we could build it, to know we could shoot it. That's what sometimes a good line producer can do. You become the coordinator or the producer. You got all the elements. But anyway, Dan was away, and we were going to introduce this character. They'd written him, but we hadn't had a name for him. So I was raised in New York. I was raised in Jackson Heights, as a matter of fact. My mother still lives there. And in Flushing, there is an old Dutch burial ground in Flushing, Long Island. And on the grave, is Barnabas somebody or other. I said, Jesus, there's a name for you. So we brought it, and everybody voted, and Barnabas got it. That's how we named it. We still didn't have an actor. And time is running out. And we have to paint a portrait. So among my many talents, I could sit still. So I got the costume, and we decided what the costume was going to be. Ramsey Mosteller was our costume designer. She's really wonderful. And we designed the idea of the ring. We've got to have the ring, and we'll get the wolf cape. And we got all that. Got the cape. We said his clothes. We didn't want him to be... If you notice, his clothes are part Edwardian, part something else. They seem to be, but we kind of created a period or a look for the vampire, rather than giving him a positive period. He wore a hat when he first came, and I don't think he ever wore the hat again. He looked like he was selling something. But we had the Inverness cape that came down, and the no sleeves, and he looked dynamite. Still, we had no acting. So I sat there, my clothes came down, and we painted the pool. Meaning we had a marvelous scenic artist at ABC. We didn't have the actor, and we had really seen a lot of people. And we got a call from an agent. Now we got this empty canvas. I mean, empty. I got my medals, or it has its medals and its hair and its funny little things, its ring, but no face. I done my bit, So the agent called. He said, "I got a guy that was in England doing Shakespeare. You ought to take a look at him." And there we go. We've got to take a look at him, because I think he had to work like in 3 days from that point. He came through the door, and I could have wept. He was marvelous. That was him. And he had, I don't know, I'll tell you this anyway, but he had started to have some orthodont work done on his mouth. He got half of it done, and I love the way the other half looked. Leave it alone! I can't have a vampire on. So that had to stay the way. The artist got a hold of him, he stuck the face on, and we hung it on the wall, and that was the story of the portrait and the introduction of Barnabas and his name. And he's had it ever since.
Costello, it's my turn.
Okay! Missy, we came over on the choo-choo tonight from New York, and we had a few minutes to sort of catch up after all these years. And it was great fun.
I remember one time I had thought that I was through for the day. I had walked up those stairs to my dressing room. I had pulled down my breeches, and I was unbuttoning my tie. When Bob Costello, the producer, flew upstairs in a rage, and he said, "You're not through yet." And I said, "Hold the tape, hold the tape, hold the tape." And I said that all the way down.
I had the most wonderful body stocking for about 6 months that my parents were floored because they saw me in this nightgown. And I wore a nightgown for a great deal of time with a body stocking that had a body that I wish when I was finally done with the show I could have kept that body. I thought that was marvelous. That are great fangs, are wonderful fangs.
Those are your keepsakes.
The Pico pay to get the men to stay on while you can growl and bite.
Are you married, Louis?
Only to my palm. Sit down now.
One of the worst things that Barnabas did happened after he had conjured up the ghost of Dr. Dave Woodard to frighten Julia. And when she accuses him of causing the ghost to appear, he denies this, saying to Julia that it is not so, that I too have been threatened by the ghost. But Julia remains unconvinced, even when Barnabas tries to say that he's developed a conscience. And so, when he decides that her love for him is something to use here, he reminds her of that to take advantage of the whole situation, to have her suspicions turned aside. Julia, oh, Dave Woodard didn't come into this room. I don't believe a word of it. Barnabas, so he's your ghost. Your guilt is so obsessive that you want to suffer alone. Oh, no, I don't want to be alone ever. You know that. Julia, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I owe you so many apologies. You've offered so much of yourself and I've chose to ignore it. Well, I can't do that any longer. I need you, Julia. Will you help me? I want to help you. I care for you, Julia. I need you. Well, I don't know. I'm all mixed up. When I came into this house, I don't think about why you came into this house. Tomorrow night we will talk it all over and spend the evening together. Julia, well, I must go. You won't be afraid now. Well, I have only one fear, that when I see you tomorrow night, I will find you changed again. That will not happen. Julia, good night, Barnabas. Good night, Julia. And Julia leaves. Didn't I once hear my little sister Sarah say that evil is wicked and well understood? The evil are punished, and so you must be good.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Yeah, for Marie Wallace. In one of the episodes, you kept running after Jeff Clark, was it?
Yes, that's why I called Roger, yes.
Yeah. Why did you keep doing that?
They told her to. Yeah, it was in the script, but the motivation behind my reason for doing it was that I was in love with him.
Yeah, because
Just
I
as-
thought it had something to do with the past or something.
Yes, in the past, I had been in love. I was somebody, Daniel Roger, I think. And in the past, he was somebody with whom I was in love. See? So I was in love with him, and that's why I kept running after him. He hated me. Adam loved me. I hated him. It was one of those
Love-hate
lovely.
relationship.
Try it.
I have a hello to you from Nancy Barrett. I was in an audition last week, and I looked at this little blonde who looks exactly like she looked. So do you two, but exactly like she looked on the sofa. And I said, I know you. And she looked at me and she said, oh my God, I know you too. What are you doing next weekend? We'll get together. I said, no. I'm going to the Dark Shadows conference. So I think, since she's back in New York, she looks marvelous and says hello to you. And she really is spectacular. Maybe we can get her next year.
I was just thinking it was my demise and my death as Beth. And what I was running away from Quentin because I thought he was possessed by somebody, right, Coffee. And he wasn't, but I thought he was, and he was running, chasing after me. I thought he was going to kill me, and I'm running off in the woods, and the direction was, just before the commercial cut, I was to turn my back away from him at the edge of the cliff. Was it Widow's Peak? Widow's Peak. Okay. And standing at the edge of that, and just before I'm supposed to teeter, almost fall, but not fall. Commercial break, right, tension bounce. Right after the commercial break, I fall down on mattresses that are about 2 inches lower than this. And I'm supposed to yell all the way down. Well, got there and I ran through the woods and it was really exciting. I'm turning and I'm walking and I'm teetering over that and I fall before the commercial break. That wasn't bad enough. I fell down on the mattresses and bounced back.
We all enjoyed your performance on Dark Shadows, and I'm sure everyone here would agree that we're very grateful to you for coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In most of the series, you always played Barnes Town, but everybody else played different people. How did you remember that Mrs. Collins' daughter, Judith, and...
Sometimes he didn't.
Question for all 5 stars was, how did you keep up with all of the name changes on the show?
Well, it was easy for me because I always forgot it a day. And if I could keep that much going, I was lucky.
2 questions. One was, how do you feel about the current process of adding color to black and white films? And the other question is, any anecdotes or personal remembrances concerning your sister, Constance Bennett?
I haven't seen any of the color, have I, David? But I don't think so. I was talking to Ruth Warwick about it last night. She was explaining how it was done. She said maybe that's why Louis Edmonds had pink hair. My sister and I are very good friends, but I can't think offhand of any anecdotes to tell.
How did you feel about that playing different people in different periods of time?
In Dark Shadows?
Characters, yes.
Fine. Didn't bother me.
What was your feelings on it?
Well, now that I can't tell you. It's too long ago to remember. I'm sorry.
Way in the back.
Question for Joan. Did you ever get tired of going up and down those stairs?
That I remember, yes.
Excuse me, I have a question for Jonathan Fritz. Why did you walk across the credits? Wearing his underwear.
Out of all that, I was carrying very respectable outer garments. Always make big stories always. So what happened was that we used to have a little cubby hole back and behind that. The place, I guess, went back to Mrs. Johnson's quarters, or the kitchens, or whatever, under that staircase. So that we used to have a little change room there because we had changes during the one set to another. sometimes a day would pass in one episode, and so you had to have a change of clothes. But anyway, that's where I used to make my changes occasionally. But they usually had these areas roped off. Once they did have them roped off, whenever they decided to take one set and use the credits, use that as the background for the credits. And but they didn't think to rope up the little dressing room back there, so I didn't know. And as soon as I came through, I heard them say, "Tack, tack, tack, tack." Like that time, I thought, well, they might as well see him. I mean, why not? I had to stay over for the night. You want to rationalize it.
Only thing is when I played Crazy Jenny, you know, once I was walking on the street. This isn't that it hurt me, but I was walking and I thought my Crazy Jenny characterization with the hair and everything was so different than I am. I mean, I put little rollers in my hair over here. I teased my hair out to here. I wore false lashes up on top and bottom. I just put dark shadow in here and everything. I thought I looked absolutely crazy. And one day I'm walking on 42nd Street and Lexington Avenue, and someone said to me, "Hey, you're Crazy Jenny." And I said, "How did you know?" And she said, "You look just like you do on television."
One wonderful woman on a bus once picked up her cane and slugged me with it. I had started going out with the Reverend Trask and screamed at the top of her lungs, "You slut." I have played such nice women for my entire life. She was furious. I got off the bus. I walked. That was it. I thought that was kind of fun. I thought that was great. But she was very angry with me. And if she's here today, I promise. I turned out okay. Don't believe these parts we play.
The only time when I played was Edith for a short while, who for me was a very one-dimensional character. I felt like I was just yelling all the time. The fans outside said, "Please, Tara, please, Beth, will you come back as Beth? Please, we like Beth. We don't like her. Please come back as Beth." Yeah.
But anyway, this was my second visit to this house. My first official visit in the sense that I was introduced to the gentleman who is in charge of the maintenance of this place. The first time I came here was 2 or 3 years ago. When I was down, I discovered it on my own when I was here with some friends. There's a bee buzzing around me. I hope it's not going to do a vampire number on me. Go away, go away, go away, go away, go away. Go away, go away, go away, go away, go away. So now that we got rid of that vampire bee, I was just reminiscing about my first time here when I was down skulking through that fence. That's down the hill there, if you want to pan down to get the geography. And just pan that down at that corner was where I first saw the house, looking up across to the tower. And of course that is the classic view down there. We have other shots to show you from down there.
Unfortunately, I'm sorry, but the camera people, they're taping these things for the future. But we should have probably been positioned on the opposite side because you're not really seeing Lara at all. But then on the other hand, you're not going to see the screen. Yeah, we have to cheat. Well, then our backs would be to you over there. You wouldn't want
Jonathan,
that.
I see the cameras, and I'm getting the shot. You're learning movie star school. I can't believe you say these things.
Lara was just asking me if I see Louis at all, and I said, well, maybe about twice a year. But he's the one person I guess I see more than anybody. And we used to have a lot of giggles together when we were doing these things. And we always sort of imagined ourselves going off like two old 19th century English actor-managers going off on some Shakespearean tour, and I doing Othello one night, and he'd do Iago, and then we switch roles the next night. We always had
And then we
grand
mix up the
ambitions.
lines. And
Yes.
both plays. Laura was saying at dinner that we remember Grayson Hall, and Laura used the word polarization. She made a terrific impact on the show. I would say that Louis Edmonds also fell into that category of the Thayer David character actors who had almost like a 1930s movie feel about them.
Marvelous sense of style.
Yeah, right, wonderful sense of style. And
You know, every once in a while, a kind of a sense of method acting would sweep through the rehearsal hall.
Quickly sweep out.
Someone would come in who believed in realism. And they would say things like, look, go back to your grave, all right? I mean, I really want you to go back to your grave. And one of the directors would say, no, more feeling. Faster, stronger. You know, and by the end of the rehearsal period, they'd be going, go back to your grave. I mean, no matter where they started, no matter what acting school they started, they always ended up doing the Dark Shadow style. After they realized sort of tense, kind of white of the eye,
Or over the top with something.
You know, I remember in this regard, about 1972 or 73, I went to South America. You know, the Dark Shadows, if anything, was more popular down there than here. And I was in Paraguay,
You're all speaking Spanish?
it was simply fabulous in Spanish. I'll tell you why, because the Spanish language is much more bravura about it. English, we tend to sort of restrained language, much more so than the Latin languages. And they picked up our style beautifully. And I can give you a perfect example in the way they pronounce my name down there. You know, here, with most of the people in this company in English would say Barnabas. But down there was Barnabas. And that was exactly the whole style of it. So they loved this bravura. They had no problems with it, except that I always wanted to meet the gentleman who dubbed my voice. And then I thought after a while, no, I better not. He'd probably take a knife to me or whatever, or a silver bullet. Because I think he probably had more trouble trying to get my rhythms and so forth. But I mean, I've never understood this art of dubbing. It must be a tremendously skilled art in itself. But anyway, they had no problems with our style, our physical style. They just played it beautifully to the language, and it was a very, very fascinating show. As a matter of fact, I hope they're playing this weekend. I know that Jim had are they doing it? Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, they're doing the Spanish version of one of the scenes. And yes.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
And of course, Catherine talks in her book about seeing the movie in French. I'd love to have seen that too.
That's wonderful.
I'd like to say how overwhelmed I am right now. I had no idea that there was this many people going to be here. I think it's great. I'm a little intimidated that I feel like everyone else knows more about Dark Shadows than I do. I only remember my part. Awesome is the word, and I'm thrilled to death to be here. And it's kind of neat. Now I don't have the advantage that I had when I walked in. But when I walked in, no one knew who I was. And talk about a bird's eye view, and I could listen in. It was great. Oh well, it was short-lived, but it was nice.
I am floored that over the few years I've been doing this, more and more of you come. It's really marvelous, but we haven't seen each other in so long that it's such a pleasure too. So you gave us a wonderful excuse to get together. I'd like to thank you all for coming. This is great.
And I'll second that too. It's wonderful touching base with all of us and finding how much we've grown in so many different ways, and to also share in wonderful ways. Wonderful ways. Come on, let's stay with the positive. And also, all of you, how much just seeing you from time to time also, how much you're growing. Some of you little and growing taller and taller, and it just feels great to me. It feels like such a wonderful celebration. I want to thank all of you, too.
It is. I think we all feel about the same way and it's so nice to see so many familiar faces now. I was here last year and I see people and waving to them and I see them in the street and it's just so great to know that Dark Shadows is getting more and more popular as the years go by, and that's really fun. Okay, good to see you all.
I said to Terry as we were walking in the room that I thought that being here with all of you was really more fun and more gratifying than actually doing the show. It's terrific. Thank you for coming.
Well, I can't believe it either. There's just so many of you. And it is wonderful to meet those people the most who come up and say, I've waited. It's great to be here and to see everyone. I look forward to meeting each of you individually. I loved meeting everyone last night, and I hope I get to talk to as many of you as possible. Thank you for coming. I'm so glad I came. I, too, am just overwhelmed at the number of people who are here, and it always makes me wonder what in the world it is that accounts for the enduring quality of Dark Shadows. What? I still don't know. Maybe we can have some answers to that. But I've been asked this question an awful lot lately, what accounts for it. But the players. It's wonderful. Thank you.
About 2 or 3 years ago, there were Joe Crothers and Addison Powell and I were on a panel similar to this. And poor Addison didn't get too many questions that day. And finally, he put his hand up and said, can I ask a question? Now, he'd been on about 20 soap operas since Dark Shadows. And he said, what the hell's going on here anyway? He had no idea that this could, and there were only about 200 or 300 at that particular event. And he couldn't have been more amazed. Unlike any other soap opera he'd been on, nothing like this ever happened. And Dark Shadows has technically been off the network for how many years. And this sort of thing happened. It's a miracle that I can't explain, and I just in awe of it. And there you are. Again, I'm just looking around here, so it's amazing after 20 years. Thank you all very much for the strong support you've given the show.
Earlier, Jonathan said something to me upstairs, which I think is something that I had mentioned in the earlier session that we had. And I want you just to close your eyes for a second in your imagination and conceive of this. It's an opening scene of a movie, and you see the back of someone walking towards Lyndhurst. And then the camera reveals that that person is David Hennessy today. And he, in his imagination, goes back to what Dark Shadows was all about. What do you think of that as a theme for the next part?
I have a secret I'd like to share with my Dark Shadows fans. Speaking as Elizabeth, indeed, Victoria Winters was my daughter.
would have been next in line for the part of Scarlett O'Hara if it wasn't for Vivian Lee.
Yes, if she hadn't come to see Larry Olivier at Metro where she was making a picture, I probably would have done it.
Well, I have a ball. I always like playing meanies. So you
Because you're such a sweetie.
Yes?
Now, I'd like each one of you to tell us maybe your most embarrassing moment on the series or funniest thing that's ever happened.
Now talk about being mean. She wants us each to tell our most embarrassing moment on funniest. Okay, well that gives us a good one. The funniest moment we each had on Dark Shadows. Who would like to start?
Actually, I don't remember that someone told me this today, that in one of the, I guess it was the bloopers clip, I do this wonderful half skip, half jump across the room, and everybody told me how cute and funny it is. I can't wait to see it. Otherwise, I don't really remember anything funny.
I do remember near the end of the series when I was Ghost of Roxanne and in Chroma Key, and you never got to act with anyone when you were a ghost. You just stood in front of this blue wallpaper and floated, you know, and the real scene happened across the stage. But I do remember, I was so used to it by then, back in that old blue nightgown, and one prop man, God bless him, said, "You've got your cross on!" And I always wear a crucifix. And I mean, for a vampire, dead, ghost, to go on in that nice blue nightie one more time, but this time with a crucifix, I would like to have seen how the writers would have explained that. He got me just in time. And then probably the first time we all put our fangs in was enormous. I was in a coffin, and they had given me fangs to hold in my left hand, and the Pico-Pay jazz to keep them on in my right hand. And all I could think of was, I'm going to open my mouth and pink ooze is going to come out. It took a long time to get used to doing that, but those are the two I remember the most.
I think I shared one of them last year, so I'll share another one. I don't remember exactly what the scene was, but it was a dramatic exit from that scene. To go through the front door. I'd said my piece about something and I turned to walk dramatically through the door and the door was locked. And I then tried crawling out a window, but that definitely does not work in 1890s period costume. They had to yell cut.
I can't remember it.
Joan, do you remember the time when you and Grayson Hall were doing a scene and you needed a letter and a revolver to do the scene and you didn't have it, you didn't have the props? And who was the stage manager then? I came running across because I was supposed to make an entrance, and they gave me the letter and the revolver, and I came in wearing my cape and the muff, and under the camera I handed them to you.
Oh, no, I don't. Very good.
I don't know where to start. And of course, they weren't funny at the time, but they're hilarious now. They were tragedies for me at the time. I suppose the one that I probably thought was funny at the time because it wasn't my fault, and that's when the fly lit on my nose. But even still, that was distracting. When is he going to leave? It's about staging.
Well, that brings up a very interesting subject that I would love to discuss with you. Laura wants to go home. By that, of course, I mean I want to go home to Egypt. And I was thinking about doing it in, say, May or June of next year. And I didn't want to go by myself. I don't want to go visit my old tombs alone. So I was thinking that it would be nice if maybe 25 or 30 people went with me. And I wondered if 25 or 30 of you would like to go. You're not saying anything, so I'm not getting any wildly enthusiastic answers.
Maybe we feel a little like David.
No, you don't have to go via the fireplace. I was thinking more of a 747.
facing me is a huge drafting table with a big light over it and manuscript paper or store paper. On my right has always been a piano. Until recently, it's now a Kurzweil synthesizer, which happens to have a great piano sound and earphones, which is the reason I got it. But you all remember it, I'm fairly certain that I'm going to be working very late into the night and I don't want to disturb anybody. Now that's there, and I'm here, and my mind is here. So when he says to me, character, he says tune, song, I think, ba-da-dee-da-da-da-dee-ba-bum, ba-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-bum, and you write down ba-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-bum.
Well, let's see, now the question was, what was your favorite part you've ever played? Of course, all of the Trasks were... They all had a lot of similarities, but I think the original Reverend Trask, he never had a first name. But I hoped he added my career to surpass even that.
I guess I heard the question by now. And since in relation to Dark Shadows particularly, I don't have too many choices. I must tell you though, with all the things that I had done over the years back then, I must say that it was a wonderfully rewarding experience to develop a character like that from nothing. And with the help of Johnny Carlin and a few other guys around here. It was great. One day, Thayer David said, "Adam, go in the closet." I went in the closet, guess what? I never came out.
Well, I think by now I have gotten tired of playing. I just played a woman this week who walks in and bursts into tears. Every day I cried all the week. No, I actually enjoyed playing Daphne. Did I play Daphne? Yeah. Oh yes, Daphne got killed. She got eaten by the werewolf. Sabrina. Daphne was in the movie. I was Daphne too. I remember Daphne had to die, and I prepared to die. I was really wanting to do a good death scene. So I got there at 6 and I was ready to die. But I don't think he shot till the next day at 4 when I really was dead. It didn't even matter. But no, I think I enjoyed it. You know, sometimes now looking back, I don't know. I think what you get. Laura got the heavy in a certain way, and I got the victim. And I guess we all justified what we played them.
Christopher, do I have a favorite person? Yes. Yeah, I got the script the day before I went back in time, and all of a sudden I had to come up. I had to leave Jet Hawks behind. I had to come up with Cyrus Longworth, and I remember working on this new character, and they said, "Come on, you got to do it. In 2 hours, we're going on the air. You've got to come up with this character." And I suddenly got this funny little voice. I put the glasses on, and he said, "For years," and it was okay. And there I was, talking to myself in chroma key. It was very weird. We didn't have time to think about how weird it was. We just did it. Because we had a director named Henry Kaplan that would hit us with a wand. In trouble.
John? Yes, sir. Was the character of Carl Collins in any way named after you? Taking your last name?
No, I like Carl Collins. I just watched myself the other day as Carl. I was a little bit embarrassed to tell you the truth. I said, did you really go ahead and do those things? That was the kind of freedom you did have on that show. No, they just came up with that name and then wrote those lines and got you into a lot of trouble.
like to talk to you and speak to you and look you in the eye and be surrounded. And it's such a wonderful feeling to be on a stage and feel your love and admiration. It's a very special experience, and I think I look forward to it every year. And I'm just thrilled to see so many of you.
This is my first time at the Dark Shadows Festival. I would have come before, but I was terribly busy. I wrote for all my children. But I was recently very pleased. One of your members, Guy Haynes, sent me a tape of all the highlights of my shows from Mrs. Johnson, Abigail Collins, and Minerva Pratt. And it was such fun because I would remember things I'd forgotten, you know, things that went wrong, things were fun. And one of them I remember with Jonathan. It was when he was supposed to frighten Abigail to death with his fangs. When it happened, we were doing it live in those days anyway. When it happened, he couldn't get his fangs in. And I was holding there against the wall, supposed to be frightened to death, and he was forever getting those fangs in. He kept getting trouble with it until he finally did. But my blaze of horror was, where are you? Okay, thanks a lot.
How many of you all were around last night and got autographs? Let me tell you, we finished at 2 o'clock in the morning. Writer's cramp. I got a withered orange right now. I had the most fun last night because people kept coming up with a poster of John. It said it had John Carlin on the bottom. They kept asking me to sign it. So I did. I signed John Carlin half the time. No, really, this is great. It's fun to see all of you. And if you have any questions, and the people that I told you to bring the pictures and the books to give me today, I hope you got them. It was last night.
Oh, I know her favorite dance is. My favorite dance is. She put me out of work for 2 or 3 weeks by turning me into a cat.
I don't recognize anything. But there must be some ghosts here. Ghosts of Josette and Barnabas and Angela. They must be wafting around these rafters on top of these lights. And I'm glad they're here. I'm glad you're here.
Please in, scrunch in, scrunch in. Terrific, that's it. There we go. There we go. Great. Okay, terrific.
Mama's delight. This is my Christmas card.
But you may not know the story of how my mother and my father both got onto Shadows. Then after Iguana, Mom did a Disney film and a few other things, and then hit a little bit of a bleak period in her career. And there was around 65, 66, there wasn't a heck of a lot of money coming in. And they had both rebelled from their parents. My mother and father both had rebelled from their parents. And they didn't relish the thought of going back into, the situations that they had rebelled from. My father was from an Ohio factory, small town Ohio factory town, farm factory town, and Mom was from Philadelphia, and they didn't relish the thought of returning to those worlds. But nonetheless, at some point, they had a kid to raise now, and they sincerely, like my father, went back to Ohio to check out whether or not it would be feasible for him emotionally to return to Ohio and give up all the dreams of being writers and actors and all that stuff. And while Dad was in Ohio looking at houses, my mother one day came home, and I wasn't there, and she went to take a shower, and she put on the shower water, and she stuck one leg in the shower, and the phone rang. And she stood there on one foot, and she thought, do I answer the phone? Do I take the shower? She got out of the shower, and she answered the phone, and it was her agent saying, did she want to do the so-called Dark Shadows? And she said, hot damn, we don't have to move to Ohio. And that was the beginning of it. I don't know if there are too many Jeremiah's Ghost fans in the audience, but I had a question. How long did it take for them to make you up in those mummy wraps?
It took about an hour and a half to get that on. And they started out, originally they went to a meat market that they knew, and they got a pig's eye, a real live pig's eye, dead pig's eye, every day for the side of my face. It was a nice blue eye. And they put it, on the weekend, they put it in formaldehyde. And it would keep, so they could keep it for another week. One week they forgot, and they left it out, and it shriveled up. And what they did was that when you die, if they don't get you into the box soon, and you're going to be shown, they slip little plastic caps under your eyelids to make your eyeballs stick out, because your eyes have a tendency to drop in when you die. So they used one of those. They painted an eye on it, and they glued it on my cheek. And I don't know whether Catherine remembers, but the first time I come on the show, had no idea what I looked like. No idea. And they had to lead me downstairs. They did. They put me on the set. They told me I was going to appear there. She came down. She got into bed. And she couldn't see me. She stood there. She was to awaken. She awoke. The lights came up. Took one look at me. Started to scream. They had to take her upstairs. They had to cut down production for, I think it was about 20 minutes. I thought they were going to call a doctor for her. She kept screaming. You should have told me. You should have shown me. You should have told me. I sent Clarice Blackburn from the makeup room all the way through the corridor down to the hairdressing room. And I had no idea again what I looked like. She was chattering away and turned around, took one look, dropped to her knees, and hobbled out. I don't go to horror movies for just that reason.
Don't you love it?
Hello? Hello? Anybody here?
Come in.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I was house hunting and I didn't expect anybody to be here.
Oh, please don't apologize. You're very welcome. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for someone to come. Anyone to come back.
Oh, thank you. Where exactly am I?
This is Hollywood.
Go ahead.
around here.
It's just, there's something about it. No, not there. Something about being bitten from the back. I don't know, I just don't like it. Look. Now, wait a second. You just try a little of this. Everybody invites me.
For so long. If anyone out there can hear my voice and would like to come and visit me at Collinwood, I'd love to see you.
I can't believe it. And as you know, there'll be a nighttime series, hopefully on the air this fall, and it's going to start all over again. And we take full credit for keeping the show alive. When I was talking this morning, I mentioned that because there's a new series and because we're coming up on our 25th anniversary of Dark Shadows, believe it or not, 25 years coming up.
Oh, come on now.
Anyway, we've got a new book to celebrate our 25th anniversary called Dark Shadows Pretending.
You all know, I've said this before, you all know why the show ended, don't you? Yeah. No, the real secret. Surely, we ran out of things for Barnabas to buy. Really, he was starting, he had bitten us 3 or 4 times. I had bitten Joan. You know, I remember the day that I bit Joan. And Joan will never forget it. Remember that, Joan? No? Well, I'm glad. Because the day I bit Joan, I think I was Dirk at that point, right? And I remember I grabbed her, and she went flat over backwards, okay? When I grabbed her. And she got up just like a trooper, and we went out to the seat. And I remember she just looked me straight in the eye, as just about as mean as she could look at me. She said, "A little too enthusiastic."
Dan and I got some letters from a local diocese in New York that complained at one time about Barnabas Collins and the vampire concept. But we invited this particular, I can't remember his name, I'm sure he's dead now. I think he was bitten. We invited him,
done in fun and with some good intentions, so we were never bothered after that.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and loyal fans of Dark Shadows. Who thought we'd get this far? I would like to dedicate this performance to my dear friend Joan Bennett, with whom I have shared many humorous moments, nearly hysterical ones, while taping Dark Shadows. For example, we were all gathered in the drawing room one morning, ready to start the dress rehearsal, and for some reason we were all done up in dressing gowns, dressing robes, and in sweeps the madam, dressed in hers, and she takes one look at us and she says, "Well, what are we playing, day or night?" The bill of fare for this evening, or is it still afternoon? I can't sing before sundown. I don't know what will come out. The bill of fare for this afternoon is as follows: songs that I have sung in shows, songs that I have written. Now don't panic, there are only 3. And the good old standby standards that we've all been brought up on, like this one from Mr. Berlin. I didn't cry when romance was through. I looked around for somebody new. Since my romance I've kissed one or two. But by and large, I think Dark Shadows was outrageous and absurd. But we had fun turning it out, I think. And with Jonathan, he came from Yale, I came from Carnegie Tech, and when we would meet over a coffin and have to say words like, "No son of mine is a vampire." And then the Jonathans would reply, "But Daddy, I am." You know, that's great fun, and to keep them breaking up, and we had, we were very serious actors, and we made it work.
Bramwell was just simply Barnabas with his hair brushed back. It was really not that much difference. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say, that I get constantly by the press, the media would say, you must have suffered from being typed. There's a few people that typed me. Back the role was fabulous. I mean, I played the piano for promotions too. We were talking earlier about when we went back to the what was your favorite time thing going back, and of course when I went back to playing, he wasn't younger. In fact, he was the same age as where he came out of the coffin. He was preserved on ice, as it were. But I felt younger when I went back to the past, and so I played the old man, I played in various time things, and I was able to do whatever I wanted to do with Barnabas Martin. It had all the potential, I'll say that, it had all the potential of being an incredibly diversified character. There was nothing typed about it at all.
Just a little bit of basic history on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's going to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is wonderful. A lot of wonderful programs. It will be science fiction, fantasy, and horror. We are going to be launching the channel the first quarter of 1991, which sounds like it may be far away, but when the program is that much time, it's really not. Some of the creative talent behind the channel includes Isaac Asimov, Gene Roddenberry with Star Trek fame, of course, and Martin Greenberg. We feel we've assembled some pretty hefty talent to keep us going in pretty good waters. Of course, I think you might be interested in our programming lineup. We have included as one of our flagship programs, Dark Shadows.
back just a little, please?
And we're going to run each episode at least 3 times during that period.
Let me add also that you actually deserve that applause because when the channel, of course, which was a season late, was developing its programming concept, as we were considering all the options and opportunities to purchase programming, we were overwhelmed and so impressed by the amount of letters that we received from you, the fans, and your sincerity and the depth of the interest that it went to. So you really should applaud yourself for seeing it on the Classified Channel because you were the ones that
I'd like to compliment both of you on your interpretations of Angelique. Both do a great job, especially Lisette for having a very hard act to follow and doing it quite well. Now, a question for Lisette. I noticed in watching the show that the laugh was only done during your ghostly appearances, mostly. Do you know how to do the laugh, actually?
The laugh. We've been amazed when people ask me about the laugh. That was a day in a recording studio. I could not do that. I would pass out with hyperventilation, which I seem to do a lot on the show. But I was helped by echo and lots of water and no one looking at me whilst I was doing it.
But Leela Swift was my darling. The minute her slip was showing and one side of her brassiere was hanging, we knew the show was going on. I wrote a great limerick about her.
Let's hear it.
Okay. Some TV directors have fits. Drive you quite out of your wits. But what do we care? We have one with a pair of beautiful, bountiful tits. And I had 2 of the most famous lines ever said. One was, silver bullets. They'll kill him all right. You have to aim directly at the heart. And the other one was, don't worry, sir. The men know the little wooden crosses will protect them.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you all for coming. It's quite an amazing event. I don't know how many hundreds of people are here, but obviously several hundred. And I'm sure I met somebody from Philadelphia, and I'm sure there are people maybe further away than that. And it's very gratifying and encouraging to realize that the show continues to have this much of a following after all these years. So, from me and I'm sure from my fellow workers here, thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you for leaving to me this time. Yeah, I was quite surprised to see so many people here. It was, I think from Ben Cross and the rest of the crew, they'll be very pleased to see how many people are supportive of the show. And thank you for coming and keep watching. Shy?
I'm just glad to have so many fans and his hearing.
You know, I dream about going back there someday. Maybe dancing. I always wanted to go out dancing with a big band. Roseland. Oh, I hear that really used to be something else. Around here, we only got one dance a year, the Hawaiian luau up at the country club. Music provided by Vaughn Bolton and his accordion. Well, I mean, he can't even play Lady of Spain.
I guess the most terrifying, scary, whatever moments on shows. Probably the first week that I was on the show. Because that first week I was not scared, I was terrified. It was
absolute panic. I remember locking my knees so that my legs wouldn't shake. The most gratifying, I think, was the first time that I did the show and I wasn't totally terrified. But my overall memory is I had a good time on the show. I liked the people. We had a good time working together, spending the days there, and it was a good, fun, enjoyable, pleasurable time of my life.
I was doing a scene with Johnny Carlin. That alone was
Is that your most gratifying experience or your most horrifying?
It was great. We had Jerry Lacey and Johnny Carlin and myself, and it was a very mysterious, conspiratorial kind of thing. And I don't know, how many of you here, like, are afraid to laugh at church and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger? It's one of those situations. Well, again, we had our illustrious Henry Kaplan as a director. And we get down, it's like dress rehearsal, and we start laughing. Because at one point, John and I are talking, we're back and forth, and we look over at Jerry, and Jerry had this great deadpan look on his face, and we just started going. And of course, the more you try to hold it back, the bigger it gets, and the bigger it gets. Now we've got this raging lunatic in the booth, right? Hitting his wand on the desk and screaming, finally, you can hear it, there's a, okay, now let's just bring it down, please, bring it down. Okay, we'll try it again. We don't have a lot of time for this. We don't have enough time. And he starts going on and on. Well, of course, we just kept going. We get more hysterical, more hysterical. So finally they had to stop it. It just went on and on and on. And finally they ended up, I think, a single camera on each of us did. But we had to play the scene like talking like and that was a wonderful time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think mine, thinking back to that, thank you for that question, was when I shot Clinton, when Angelique told me that she was going to marry Clinton, and I thought I was going to marry Clinton. And I had my gun hidden in my pocket. At first I was going to kill myself, but I thought, no, that's not a good idea, I'll just kill him. And so I, shot him. One of the things, as an actor, sometimes you have those, you think about these scenes that someday you'll have that will be really super dramatic and you can just let yourself go in. Well, this was the moment that I chose to have be my super dramatic one that I could really let myself go in. And I knew the teleprompter was there so that if I got totally into the character and forgot where I was for a moment because I'm really after this mean person, then the teleprompter would be there and I could catch my lines if I needed it. So I got into, someone's laughing, you're right. I got into that. I really was, he was someone who just had done me wrong, and I was getting him, and I shot him once, and he's running off, and I'm after him, shooting him again, and I'm saying some lines, and suddenly I went blank. I couldn't remember anything except I was furious with him. And I looked at the teleprompter, and I'm going, Thank goodness no one has showed me that scene. Thank you. I'm stumbling, and the teleprompter is on someone else's scene. It isn't even on the scene that we're in at the moment. And again, because as an actor, if you're really working in the moment, you know what the scene's about, you can ad-lib. Thank God you can ad-lib. And so I managed to get to the screen, and no one ever told me that didn't seem real. So I guess all the emotion in that was okay, but for a moment I really panicked. I really came out of character for a moment and panicked, and I guess it was all right for the scene because I was certainly panicking in that moment with him.
I have one other one that I never admitted to. John had a reputation for going out quickly. And we had a scene together, and I went out. And he looked at me and thought it was his fault. Came up with a line. We kept going on with the scene. We finished the scene. He walked up to me and apologized for going up. He was sure he was the one that went up. I never told him differently. John, if you're there, I'm
Do
sorry.
we have another episode of the show?
amazing to have a whole new generation of fans. A lot of the fans are familiar to us from 25 years ago, but it's incredible to think that there is a whole new slew of people who found the videos. I think that's amazing. We're starting to find they're both very interesting to me. And as far as being typecast, is this good? Yeah. As far as being typecast, I wish I had been typecast more often. I don't think I looked like a witch. I never did. So it was hard to find witch parts. I only had one other witch part. Night Stalker, yeah. A lot of prostitutes. Catherine has never played a prostitute. But I have aspirations.
How did you react to Grayson Hall? How was it like working with her?
That's a serious question. Grayson was absolutely delicious. She was so funny and raucous. And a day with Grayson Hall, you just knew you were going to have a good time. She was a splendid actress. And she just took no nonsense. I mean, she was just wonderful. We reacted very well to her. We want to know. Laura.
Well, she had wanted someone else to get the part of Angelique. She knew a young actress that she was pushing. So when I got the part, she didn't like me at all. And I was very intimidated by Grayson. She'd been in theater, she'd been in film, she knew everything I didn't know. And I used to hang on every word because she'd tell wonderful stories about being in Broadway plays or having gone out to Hollywood and done films. And I just found her so fascinating. And then finally when I got to know her, and it took several years before I got over my intimidation, I could actually carry on a conversation with her. I was so intimidated, and often I would have to act a scene in which I told her where to go and I told her what to do. And she'd walk onto the set, she'd look at me and she'd raise those eyebrows. Lower her down. And I'd be so afraid of her. I had to be the one who was bossing her around. It was really hard. But then we got to be pretty good friends towards the end. And I always thought that Grayson she really set the style of Dark Shadow. She had that camp quality that kind of floated on the top of the serious material. And I thought her acting style was sort of pivotal to what happened with the show.
Your Angelique was very sensual, different from the first series. Did you draw it all from the original Angelique's characters?
I thought you were going to say, did you draw a lot from experience?
You can answer that too, if you like.
I'm sorry. What was your question again?
I was wondering if you drew from the original characters.
No, I didn't watch the original series before I started. I knew how immensely popular the original Wonderful Woman was, and I just wanted a chance to create my own. And also I have another long story. There was a reason, the day before I had to sign the contract, having not seen it, my husband was putting up shelves, and he was banging in some nails very fervently, and the 30-foot shelf dropped on his head, and we ended up in emergency till 3 in the morning, and I had to sign the contracts the next morning, so I didn't get to see it.
You did an excellent job.
Thank you. If any of you are having any problems whatsoever, we're auctioning off these extremely useful little items. Instructions do not come with them, unfortunately. What am I bid? 25. Okay. It's a long time since I've played with these. 25, do we have any advance on 25? 30. 35. Going once. 400. 400. Going once, going twice, sold. Congratulations. Thank you.
Father, this is our new governess, Miss Winters.
She's a bit bewildered from the blow to her head, but she comes to us with an excellent letter of recommendation.
So you say, Barnabas. Yet I'd expected a Mistress Wick, not Winters. Come here, girl. Open your mouth.
Beg pardon?
I said open your mouth. Wider. Wider.
Joshua!
These things are important, woman. Miss Winters appears to be a fine, healthy young woman. I shall hire her. Receive room and board, and 1 tuppence every other month for pay.
Father, that's outrageous. Miss Winters is not a slave.
No, that's all right. That's pretty much what Roger Collins pays me in 1991.
How can you hire this creature? Why, only this morning she didn't know where she was or even what year it was.
That's because it was 1795 in the old series.
There, Aunt Abigail. You have your explanation.
Well, I never.
And with a sour face like that, she never will either. Having seen that episode,
Yes.
were you in any danger? Were you scared of all that fire around?
No, ask Phoenix, of course not. No, I quite enjoyed it. However, ABC did have its moments of panic. Now, I can't remember which fire you're talking about, but there was indeed one fire that they had sort of beams that were hollow, that were over the cottage. But I don't remember which time this was. It was, okay, early. We were shooting it and we didn't stop, and the flaming beams did drop down in front of me. I suppose one could say that there was danger. Heaven knows. Actors never think in those terms. We leave that to the special effects men to worry. I loved it. I mean, oh God, I'm getting so close to this fire. It's so wonderful. It's incredible. I have one of my great memories of the entire thing. Thank you for asking.
Have you any memories of playing the ghost of Brutus Collins? This was during the final few months of the series.
Not really.
No. Well, you made a great ghost. It's a pity you didn't do any more ghosts because you were really menacing as a ghost of Brutus, and you were wonderful.
Well, I will tell you this, and it's kind of pertinent in a way. Dan Curtis, we did what do they call those things?
Pilot?
A pilot. After the Dark Shadows closed, we did a pilot of something else, and in it I was the Commodore, and they took...
Dead of Night. It was the Dead of Night pilot, right?
Oh, you people are too... Thank you. Well, after the pilot, the picture was of no use to anyone but me, obviously, and it was a handsome picture. And so, bless his heart, Dan Curtis sent out this huge picture, and I couldn't get it in my house. But luckily, I have a sister who lives in an enormous house down in Baton Rouge, just south of Baton Rouge. And there's this great high-ceiling billiard room. And we sent the picture down there, and it's still there, and it looks marvelous. Really.
Q3 cousin Trask is back. Trask some more Trask.
How long did it take you to get into that Trask makeup?
About 4 hours every morning. It was a joy. It was. I mean, I was hired to play Roger Collins. That's all I knew about. And not having seen the original show, I had no idea who Trask was. And one day, thank you very much. Well, we'll see. If I wasn't afraid of messing up my tie, I would have go spitting it out. It's water. Anyway, Dan Curtis at lunch one day said, "You're going to play Reverend Trask." When we go back into the 18th century. And I said, Trask, I don't know who that is. And he said, read it. Well, I read this character, and it's how often you get to play an attorney who is also an exorcist, who exorcises nubile young things on a table in the basement of a cathedral. I was excited about it. And then I said, what do you want him to look like? And he said, what do you think? And I said, well, give me a day or two. And so, well, what you saw there was the second Gene Simmons on the show. Yeah, Gene Simmons with the rock group Kiss. Yeah. That's also my latest album.
You did a very good job.
God bless you.
How was it like working with Ethel Merman and Opposite for the Boys and with Mary Martin in One Touch of Venus?
How much time have you got?
And how was it like working with Barbara Streisand and Funny Girl?
Fabulous. It was wonderfully talented, marvelous lady, and it was very exciting to be as going through that particular moment of life with her, where everything turned over for her and she became a star. But before we go into my fascinating life and famous colleagues, I think I'd like to give you a message from Sam Hall and from Matthew Hall. We didn't make up those words we are speaking, they did. And Sam has just finished a new play called Love and Other Obsessions, which could be the title of Dark Shadow, now that I think of it. And Matthew is finishing his second book. The first one was an enormous success. It's called The Art of Breaking Glass. And I'm sure that it will be of interest to all of you, particularly the ones who read the first one.
There was one time when I remember I was working with David Selby, and it was in the jail scene. And I had a lot of exposition because I was a new character. And we had teleprompters, but it was live tape, so whatever you did, you kept going. And I remember I had several pages of dialogue, and I looked over, and there was a jail bar right in front of the teleprompter, and I couldn't see my line. And I just went on. I don't know what I said. I had no idea. And I saw the tape after all these years the other day, and I made sense. I thought for all these years that it was something just horrible. It was all right. I was very happy about that.
Barbara, how did you feel doing those French kissing fighting scenes?
Well, I had like a vampire thing going way back. I don't know why, but it's just something I always loved. I always wanted to go to Romania and travel around in the boondocks and hear where all those legends came from. So I was thrilled out of my mind to get to do a vampire, and especially to be a vampire slave. I thought that was about the coolest thing in the world. So I love doing those scenes. It made perfect sense to me.
I didn't do any of those scenes, but I enjoyed watching them. Are either of you familiar with the old series? I watched it a little bit, but I wasn't a fan, and I don't know. I certainly don't know as much about it as anybody else in this room.
I remember turning it on as a child, and I watched it for 5 minutes, and I was so terrified that I turned off the TV and I never watched it again. But I watched it now, and I love it. I think it's great.
Mr. Stevens, first of all, I would like to pay tribute to you as being my inspiration for every costume gala in which I've gotten up as a werewolf. And my question is, it takes me about an hour and a half to get made up as a werewolf. How long did it take them to get everything to turn you into a werewolf?
Well, in the beginning, almost 2.5 hours. Because the hair was yak hair, but from the eyebrows back. And we made about 20 different noses to satisfy whatever the dentist made my teeth. And then we got it down to a science. Then he made
cast on my face so we can practice more on because the acetone keeps me away.
And secondly, in the 1897 flashback, your werewolf is chasing Beth Chavez in the foyer of Collingwood. The werewolf leaps over the railing to the floor. That was been over 20 feet. Was that actually part of the script, or was that inspirational on your part?
Oh, half and half. Dan Curry showed take a shortcut.
Thank you very much.
I've been great admirers for both of you for over 20 years, and it's very exhilarating to see you both together on stage, and I want to thank you both very much. And I want to say to both of you, you're not getting older, you're getting more fantastic.
I think that Dan Curtis is one of the best directors in Hollywood, and I wanted to ask the panel what your recollections were of Dan Curtis during the time he did Dark Shadows.
Well, let me say something that's quite true. This isn't the Dark Shadows series, but he directed the House of Dark Shadows up at that place. Lyndhurst, up at Lyndhurst. The first day he was doing it, he was so nervous that he was looking through the opposite end of the camera. It's true. And somebody gently went up and said,
Nice to see everybody. Oh, do we have new Dark Shadow? Is there such a thing as new Dark Shadow fans? There is. How beautiful.
My God, the ones that first saw us could be over 50 years of age.
No, see, that's cheap Irish humor from a cheap Irishman. And I love the Irish, except him.
The Poles have to have a sense of humor.
Jest Polska, jest Uniewa, to rozumiem.
Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, and it's wonderful to be with my dear, dear friend who I haven't seen in such a long time. I'm going to give John a kiss right now. If he wants it on the lips, he can have it, or on the cheek, whatever way.
I didn't used to allow him to do that, but as you get older, you get weaker, and sex means less and less.
And he's finally come out of the closet and said,
How are you all? Having a good time? It's hard to believe that, I've got children. I've got a child who was born when this thing first started. And he just finished his master's degree. And now he's an actor. And he said the other day he's a big Trekkie fan and a Dark Shadows. He says, well, Dad, maybe one of those shows will come along for me. And the only thing I can say is, if he's lucky and God blesses him, he'll have something like this.
Yes.
I remember Bucky Harrison and Mildred Ford, but I don't remember the first character you played, Nellie Dunstan. Can you tell us who she was?
I don't remember much about her. The one I remember the most is Bucky Harrington. And actually, my very first time I was ever on Dark Shadows, I played a Naga person, and they did away with me. Well, Barnabas did away with me. He bit me in the neck and killed me. So that was my first very exciting. I still think that was one of my highlights because I got bit by Barnabas. Very exciting.
Actually, I want to ask a question for the audience because I want to know what it is, what elements that this show has that it sustained this kind of incredible, this passionate loyalty for 27 years, And so I think we should invite some people from the audience and ask them to tell us about it. Yes. Julia, what do you think?
What do I think about why people stay with it?
Yeah, 27 years.
For 27 years, I think it has all the elements that attracted us as children. I mean, one of the things that I got most excited about when I was playing Abigail was when I realized she was going to get her throat ripped out. I have been rehearsing that part since I was 5 years old. You know, running around in the backyard yelling, no, 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 ah! We all played that part, and it has all the elements. I mean, one thing when we were up at the Doheny Mansion and filming this, you put on the big skirts and they got the smoke machines going, and you knew you were in the movies. It was exciting, and it was someplace else. It was magical and mysterious. I think that the Dark Shadows have all the elements of the best fairy/ghost stories all in one. It was amazing. I missed it. I loved it.
Nice to do it again.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Denise. I'm very curious, just to take a break from Dark Shadows for a moment. I wonder if you would relate to us your experiences in the giant blueberry suit in Willy Wonka.
I just want you to know that I auditioned for that part. I did.
Well, that's probably what most people remember me from. And it's really something to go through life with everyone knowing you as the giant blueberry. However, it was a very, very fun thing to do. We were over in Bavaria, in Germany, for 2 months, and we all stayed in this little like Swiss chalet hotel, and we'd go down for breakfast in our pajamas. We were like one big happy film hotel, you know. They made a giant styrofoam ball and cut it in half. They laid me down on a piece of paper and drew the outline of my body, and then cut the outline inside of these two halves, and literally put them together like with me in the middle as a sandwich, and then put a big belt around it, and then a gigantic suit. The only problem with this is that the Oompa Loompas could not see over me. So, in trying to roll me out of the room, inevitably I ended up in the door frame. Then everyone went to lunch. Well, of course, it took me an hour to get into this zoot suit, so they weren't going to take me out of it for a lunch break, so they assigned a man to turn me every 5 minutes. And that's how I spent my lunch hour. So. Otherwise, it was a great time. Gene Wilder was a lot of fun to work with. Jack Albertson was a terrific guy, and all the kids. That was a lot of fun for me because there were a lot of kids in it. So.
All alone?
Quentin's in the study. He's working. You know, there's something I've been meaning to say to you all day. I've been thinking about Angelique's murder, and I think I have a way to find out who it was who murdered her. Now, if you murdered somebody, what would be the most logical way for you to kind of draw suspicion away from yourself? Blame someone else? Yeah, that would be good. Or else you could deny that a murder occurred in the first place. Exactly. I mean, if you had killed somebody and you could convince someone that there was no murder at all, well, I mean, then you'd be completely free of suspicion, wouldn't you?
Long, long ago, Barnabas Collins. You were a small boy with sad eyes. I remember you very well. I wonder if those eyes saw your future. I wonder if they saw this moment when you would be destroyed forever. Who are you? What do you want? I have to take you for you. Get
you can't hear me. What did you do to him?
I was 100 years old. As Ezra Braithwaite, I was on only twice in all the years. I was 100 years old then. Don't I look younger now?
The first thing any actor has to ask about any character is, who am I and what do I want? Carolyn Collins Stoddard was crystal clear to me from the first time I saw her in The Blue Whale, flinging about her very long, very blonde hair on the dance floor. I come home in the morning light, although I know all this work is nothing and nothing. I'll take a chance to dance till I see the sun, 'cause girls just want to have fun. Yes, girls just want to have fun. Sure, I'm part of the upper crust, but why should I sit around and feel myself lost? I'll be a rebel till my victory is won, 'cause girls just want to have fun. Yes, girls just want to have fun. Now consider what it's like living at Collinwood, where a ray of sun never shines. We are seriously wealthy. We have no television. We have no radio. We have no stereo. My only friend is the governess we had to hire because the smartest person in the family is a 10-year-old kid. My poor, dear mother doesn't dare send me off to college. I'd be the first bra burner on any campus. Rich folks with a fun-loving girl just want her to fit into this small elite world. I want more. I want to dance till I'm #1, and girls just want to have fun. Yes, girls want to have fun. That's all I really want to do. I want to have a good time when my really fascinating day is over. I want to dance. I want to ride on motorcycles. I want some excitement. Take it from me. And girls just want to have fun. Yes!
I will speak, and I will be heard. Brutus says Caesar was ambitious. If it was so, it was a grievous fault. And grievously had Caesar answered it. Now, under leave of Brutus and the rest, come I to bury Caesar. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. I come not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to prove what I do know. And I do know, yes, that you slay the eye. Is it not monstrous that this player here, but in a fiction, in a dream of passion, could force his soul so to his own conceit, that from his working all his visage wan, tears in his eyes, distraction in his aspect, a broken voice, with all his functions suiting reforms to his conceit, and all for nothing for Hecuba!
I'm telling you, these two guys are absolutely crazy.
Do you remember how King Johnny was killed? Michael Stroka threw a knife and it landed in King Johnny's back, and he fell on his face and died. And what they did was they gave me a vest with plastic inside and stuck a knife in it so that the knife was there all the time. And Michael Stroker, who threw the knife, didn't even have a knife in his hand. And the director said, when you fall, make sure you fall forward, because if you fall backward, the knife is going to go. So when I saw it, it looked so real. I thought, wow, this guy really hit me in the back. But all he did was, he did that. The next shot was the knife in my back, and I was falling over, and it really looked like he threw the knife right into my back. It was really lovely the way they did it. And, you know, she is America's mom, and look how well you all turned out. And I'd like Marion to talk to you for a minute.
Well, first of all, I just love Paul. Isn't he handsome? Yeah! The nicest man in the world. And you know that I worked with Jonathan Frid. We did Arsenic and Old Lace about 10 years ago. And we started in New York and went to Detroit, and we did we traveled the whole nation. And he was such a wonderful man. And the thing that I remember is that when the show would be over every night, we'd come outside, and outside the stage door would be hordes of people. It was you. I know it was you. No, it's you. And the interesting thing is you never bought a ticket to the show. You didn't care about the show. I just wanted to see Jonathan Frid.
I did. While I have all of you together here, I want to thank all of you for coming. I also want to thank Jim Pearson for allowing this to happen. And I also want to thank all of our wonderful volunteers who do this out of the goodness of their heart, because without them, none of us would be here today. And I think that we all ought to give them a hand. Thank you.
Oh, yes, I said I would even have a song. I think there's been nothing more pleasing in my career than to think that one had one's own theme song. I am delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be back among so many people to whom Dark Shadows meant so much to, and continues to, and I am so delighted to be back here among friends, and I will count you all among friends.
Was the night before Christmas, and at Collinwood, Barnabas's portrait still hung where it should. A few years may have passed, but the house was still standing, when his ghost could be seen at the top of the landing. His portrait reflecting his state of decay, quite reminiscent of Dorian Gray. Each spirit and demon still roam the great halls, their bodies once buried, their bones behind walls. The wind carried wailings of voices now still, the waves were heard crashing below Widow's Hill. Malloy was still singing his seafaring din, encouraging Jed and Josette to join in. Jason McGuire, his brogue still at rest, the way he said Liz will be remembered in best. Patrick played Jason a fraud and a sneak. They'll bring him back as Paul started next week.
It was 12/24, not one holly berry. There was no mistletoe and nobody felt merry. Isaac looked down from his frame perched above.
No golden rings and no, not one turtle dove.
They haunted the house in a funk feeling blue. They spooked themselves out. There was nothing to do.
This place is too boring for one and for all.
So they figured, why not have a holiday ball? Eggs, Cooley, and Munster can dance to the mash, a graveyard sensation, this big Collins bash. So they sent out the word just to break up the tedium to each psychic and road fortune teller and medium. By Ouija and tarot, by hoof and by wing, by bow and by arrow, and even each hint. The message was heard by each prophet and scribe.
Come ye all to the party, come ye dead or alive.
And I want Bobby to hear every word of it. Are we ready? Lula, 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 bye, bye. Do you want the moon to play with? Or the stars to run away with? They'll come if you don't cry. So lula, 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 bye, bye. In your pappy's arms a weekend, but soon you'll be asleep. Lula, 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 bye.
Should I? What is the noise? What happened?
Just hit something.
Oh, they're showing something. They're voting something. We really had a few better steps last night at about 4 in the morning.
Our revels now are ended. These, our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which inherit it shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.